Okay, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
How you doing, everybody, and welcome to the Moffett on the Mic radio show. We are live, as always, on the A1 Sports Network. I am Craig Moffett, and of course, you may not recognize him thanks to his 70s porn stash, but we are talking, of course, about the one and only Chris Klim.
What's up, Craig?
Klim, it's good to have the band back together. I know it's been a little bit of a hiatus for us, and I wasn't feeling that great last week, but good to be back. You can follow the show, as always, on Instagram at Moff on the Mic and on my Facebook page as well. You can follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can subscribe to our show courtesy of Apple Podcasts. Like and comment, leave us a 5-star review because it makes us feel oh so special at the end of the day. We were scheduled to have a guest on today. Returning to the show was going to be Taylor Dahl from the Hemlitz and Heel show on 1010XL Radio in Jacksonville. Whenever we need a good laugh about Urban Meyer, she is our first phone call. But unfortunately, she had a little bit of a family issue to take care of, and she will not be on the show tonight. However, Klim has worked his magic, as always, he always does. And she will be on the show 2 weeks from tonight on September 28th, right here on the A1 Sports Network. So we'll be talking everything Jags football, Chicago Bears football, and Cubs baseball with our very good friend Taylor Dahl. Also on that show right now, as we still try to figure out the times, of course, but barring any last-minute changes or anything, we will have returning to the show another good friend of ours. You can catch him, as always, on ESPN Radio in Houston, host of the Jake Asman Show, part host of the Wheelhouse, I think is the name of the show in Houston that he's on. The one and only Jake Asman will be back with us to talk Jets football, pretty much everything. We always like to – it's really a hodgepodge of sports when we have Jake on. We talk about New York sports, talk about Houston sports. So he's always been a good friend of the show, and we always appreciate having him on. So again, 2 weeks, September 28th, right here on the Moffett on the Mic show, we will have Jake Asman and Taylor Dahl joining us, and we're pretty psyched about it. So it's just going to be us for tonight. Needless to say, we have a lot to talk about because we have been off the air for a while. So we're just going to kind of dabble into a lot of different things. Feel free to comment on the live Facebook feed. Klim will get to the questions, and he'll post them as we get them. So, Klim, where do you want to begin?
I mean, Craig, it's been, what, a month since we did our last show? And the Jets, man, I think we got to start with our team, man. The Jets are fucking looking great.
All right, so let's kick it off. We'll talk a little Jets football right now. And the Jets had a bye this week. They get back to playing this Sunday. They play the New England Patriots in Foxborough in a rematch of a few weeks ago. A game that I kind of agree with everybody that they let get away from them, that they pretty much – not to say they had that game won. I don't want to go that far, but I thought they were in the driver's seat to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much had shut down the Patriots offense for the most part. They had a pick six right before the end of the first half, brought back because John Franklin Myers was caught roughing the passer. Zach Wilson had a bit of a meltdown in the second half with 2 picks, and he had one right before the end of the half, kind of really turned the tide, and the Patriots wound up winning 22-17. That was the game, in my opinion, where, again, this fan base – during this hiatus, I'll be very honest. If I could have a guy who was my personal hero, It's Chris Sims. Okay? Chris Sims, who is on the Mike Florio podcast with Mike Florio from Pro Football Network. I think it's Pro Football Network. And it's on NBC Sports. And he basically, blasted the Jets fans after the Patriots loss. And he was dead on accurate. So I'll get into that in a minute because I want to pull the comments up because he was literally spot on with his assessment of the Jet fan base. What I loved about the following week when they played Buffalo, because let's call it what it was. When they lost the Patriot game, we were under the assumption that they were going to be 5-4 going into the bye. We didn't think they were going to beat Buffalo. Now, I was calling a hockey game that day, so I couldn't really watch the game very much, but I was able to get some Wi-Fi in there. And I was blown away by how much they bounced back off that loss to New England and dominated Buffalo.
It wasn't even – I was going to say, it wasn't even like was a back and forth. The Jets were in control, I would say, more than 85% of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there wasn't a sliver of doubt where I was just like, oh, the Jets might like lose this game. I was like very confident from the beginning, like, oh, the Jets look like they're going to win this game. It looked really good from start to finish.
But their defense was dominant. Their pass rush is so good now. Like, it's vastly improved from last season. You have Carl Lawson getting involved. You have Quinnen Williams having a career year, in my opinion. You have Michael Clemens getting after the quarterback is another guy. I mean, I'm just kind of rambling off guys left and right here. The Jets have arguably the best quarterback duo in the league in Sauce and DJ Reed. Jordan Whitehead has had a pretty good season in his first year in New York. LaMarcus Joyner has played a lot better compared to week one. It's been a night and day difference. Take into account that Quan Alexander, another viable piece to this rotation. And then on top of that, after losing Breece Hall and losing Elijah Vera Tucker for the season in the Denver game, the Jets go out and they make a gutsy trade right off the bat, getting James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars for basically what amounts to like a fifth-round pick, I think, at best. That showed me when they made that deal that Joe Douglas was all about winning. He believes in the roster the way it's constructed right now, and he surveyed the landscape too of the AFC. It wasn't just about making that trade to replace Breece Hall. I think he surveyed the landscape. He surveyed the schedule that we have coming up the rest of the season, and the fact that the Jets were 5-3 going into that Buffalo game. And he basically just said, you know what, we're going to make a deal right now to get. And he wound up doing that. And that's the shit that you want to see from your team. You want to see the Jets making trades to add, not necessarily subtract.
Right. No, you're absolutely right too. And it's not like, because it's very obvious. Michael Carter is more than capable of taking the sole reins of the starting running back position by himself. So if the Jets really were like, you know what, this ain't our year, it's next year, he wouldn't have made the trade. He would have just had Michael Carter get all the reps and get him better for next year. But no, exactly what you said. He went out, got a good running back in James Robinson. More or less, I would feel like him and Breece Hall like the same kind of running back, and it's like he fits right into the system, I think, very well. This was a great trade for the Jets, and only a fifth-round pick for a former 1,000-yard runner. I'll take it all day.
Exactly, and the thing is, like, it's just a case of he could have easily just said, all right, we'll go with Ty Johnson and Michael Carter the rest of the way, and maybe we'll pluck Tevin Coleman off of a roster and bring him in. That would have been like the easy way out, and instead. Now, look, James Robinson is not Saquon Barkley. He's not, he's not Dalvin Cook or, Christian McCaffrey or Nick Chubb. But to compliment a guy like Michael Carter, he's perfect for what they do. And that's what impressed me the most about the trade. It was just the fact that as soon as Breece Hall got hurt, the next day Joe Douglas is on the phone. He's going out and getting James Robinson. He was in talks to land an offensive lineman. There were a lot of rumors circulating about them going after Laramie Tunsil from the Texans was a guy that was brought up. Jack Conklin from the Browns was brought up. Then there was a crazy talk about the Jets being interested in Bradley Chubb to add to the pass rush, which I don't necessarily think they needed. But he winds up going to the Dolphins. And I think that was also a case of I think the Dolphins panicked and made the move to get Bradley Chubb, because they knew the Jets were going after him in a way. And then they wound up giving him a $100 million extension, right after the trade was made. But you just see that they believe in this team. And one thing, too, is Robert Saleh has done a terrific job keeping this team focused. They shrug off a loss, they come back, and they win the next week. See, they don't give a shit about the Jets of the past. They don't give a shit about the same old Jets of the past. They're just there to win now. Sauce, Reed, Garrett Wilson, before he got injured and for Breece Hall. The line has been much better. Nate Herbig has been a sleeper pickup for the team.
Oh, yeah. I was going to mention that to you today. I'm like, look at the offensive line. Yeah, you have your namestays of Langston Tomlinson. Dwayne Brown's been fine. McGovern's been McGovern. But Nate Herbig has been very, very solid at that right guard position.
Exactly, especially when they had to move Tucker to right tackle after Fant got hurt, and then they put Herbig on the left and the right guard position, and he has stabilized that line very well. They're able to run the football. Now it looks like they're going to start getting some reinforcements back. Max Mitchell started practicing with the team today. I don't know if he'll be back on Sunday yet. Fant apparently needs a little more time. That's why you don't give Fant a lucrative deal, right? But you've got to be very impressed with the way that this team bounced back and against the Buffalo Bills. That was a no doubt. Like, you can't complain. You can't critique that win. You can't say, well, it was in Buffalo. It was in New York, not in Buffalo. There's nothing you can nitpick about that win. You can't sit there and say, like when they beat the Steelers, it was, well, they had to play Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. Hey, I'm not the one who signed fucking Mitch Trubisky. I'm not the one who signed Kenny Pickett. That's their problem. That is the Steelers' problem. That's not the Jets' problem. When they played Denver, it was like, well, they had to play, Brett Rippon. Hey, it's not my problem that Russell Wilson got hurt. Yep. Okay? And not for nothing, the Jets have dealt with their fair share of injuries. I could easily say, well, they lost New England because Breece Hall didn't play. I could easily say, we didn't have Elijah Vera Tucker. Okay? I can play that game just as much as any other stupid fan can play their game. Okay? Sometimes you lose and you take the loss. That's how it works. There was nothing to nitpick about that Jets-Buffalo game. It wasn't a flawless game by any stretch of the imagination, but against a team that many had predicted right now to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl this year, the Jets played an all-around incredible game, harassing Josh Allen into turnovers. He had 2 brutal picks in that game. Okay? I don't think he threw any touchdowns in that game. I think he ran for 2 touchdowns. But overall, and they sacked him 5 or 6 times in that game too. And they threw him off his game all day long. And he could not recover from that.
I was going to say, if you looked at it, like you mentioned with the Jets defensive line, the pass rush, they got to Josh Allen a lot in that game. They upset him.
Backfield so many times, it was tough to keep up. And Buffalo's running game is still an issue. They still have some issues in the running game. That's part of the reason why they lost yesterday, too, to Minnesota, which is like the craziest game I think I've ever seen in my life. But as a Jet fan, the fact that they are 6-3, Klim, I would have signed up for 5-4 by the bye week.
That's what I was telling, my friend, obviously Mike Laws comes on he comments on our show every show. I was telling him, I was like, look, 5-4, obviously I wouldn't have liked. 6-3 obviously would have been real sexy, because I was already writing off the Bills as a loss, and that we should have beat the Patriots. So 6-3 would have been real sexy going into the bye week. But the fact that we are 6-3 after we beat the Bills, and like you said, there's no excuse as to, we played at home, we played this, Josh Allen was this was that. There's no excuse. The Bills were 100% flat out the better team. 9 times out of 10, the Bills win that game. I can almost guarantee you that. But the Jets, they played just such amazing football. It was, again, like we said earlier, from start to finish, it was just great, dominant football by the New York Jets. Sauce Gardner looked great. Breece Hall looked great. The defense, the front 7 got to Josh Allen. Quan Alexander and C.J. Mosley laying down the hits. Bryce Huff is phenomenal. Like, I can't say enough good things about this Jets team, and that's just not me and you being Jets fans. Yeah. This is just football. Like, you watch the Jets, and it's just like, holy shit, they're really good. Like, not expecting this at all. Like, I was expecting maybe, if we're looking at the beginning of the season, maybe 4 wins going into the bye. The fact that we're 6-3.
Look, you know what bothers me too, though, and like I say this a lot, because when they beat Cleveland, everybody said it was lucky. When they beat Pittsburgh, it was almost like, well, they played a rookie quarterback. Okay? The opposite side of that argument is if the Jets lose those games, okay? If the Jets lose those games, they would be saying, "Oh, it's the same old Jets. They can't beat a rookie quarterback who's stepping onto the field for the first time. They can't beat Brett Rippon. They can't beat." I mean, like, sometimes you have to give the devil his due. And the fact is that the Jets deserve credit for winning those games. Okay? They went into hostile environments like Pittsburgh and Denver. I don't care what Pittsburgh's record is right now. I don't care that Denver's offense stinks. The fact is they went into those environments which are brutally tough, and they won those games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The Denver game is especially impressive because Zach didn't have that great of a game. They lost Breece Hall, and they lost Elijah Vera Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
And they still won the game. Okay? Sometimes you just got to give the devil his due. And the fact is that the Jets have played really hard this year under Robert Saleh. They've all bought in. They're confident. When was the last time we could say that about any Jets roster?
Since Rex Ryan was the head coach, maybe.
The confidence is just overflowing in them right now. They're anxious to get back on the field. They're anxious to prove to everybody that this is not a fluke. Imagine the Jets hitting Klim literally on the equivalent of 4 first-round picks if you include Breece Hall. Even Jermaine Johnson is getting active. He's getting after the quarterback. They traded Jacob Martin during the trade deadline at Denver for the sole purpose of getting more reps for Jermaine Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
What does he do? He gets a sack in the Buffalo game. I mean, I don't know what else you can say about this team right now. They are 6-3. They are ahead of the curve. They're going into another hostile environment to play the Patriots. I mean, it's just, and I say this too because the thing that bothers me the most about this fan base is every time they lose a game, they always find something to bitch about. Whenever they win a game, they always find something to bitch about. Okay? When they win games, they're mad that Zach Wilson didn't throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When they win games, they're pissed off that, and this is exactly what I'm piggybacking off of Chris Sims. Stop massaging your mustache. It's really fucking creepy.
I'm sorry. I notice I do it too, and I'm like, oh, I got to stop this. This is
really
bad.
I'm sorry. If you're going to do that shit, turn your video off. It's really creepy. Okay? Like, it's really, really creepy. And I hope your friends are watching this right now because they're probably going to chime in and be like, yo, man, it is really creepy. Right? So, but when they lose, they win, we didn't get Elijah Moore enough targets. What are we doing? And that's the shit that Chris Sims was talking about a week ago. It was right after the Patriots loss. You know, he criticized Zach Wilson. He said, oh, Zach played like shit. But he's like, but these Jet fans are just never satisfied. They're never happy. You know, they immediately want to pivot to Mike White as soon as Zach struggles. And he's like, you know, it's like they have a good quarterback, but he said something along the lines of like, but they prefer to go with a guy who was a plumber a year ago because that's the feel-good story. And he's like, yeah, and he's a plumber, and that's why you're 2-14 every year because you pluck these guys off the street and they suck, basically, is what he's trying to say. It's like, you know, again, we didn't get Elijah Moore enough targets. We didn't do that. Why aren't we getting Elijah Moore involved in the offense? They're never satisfied. It's always something.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just sit back and say, wow, this team is 6-3. They're just, you know, they're blowing my expectations out of the water right now. You know? I mean, at best, we expected a 7-10 season.
Yeah.
7-10 for this year with this roster, and then next year we'd make like a stronger run in Zach's third year and, you know, and everything. And the last 2 drafts they've had have been incredibly strong.
Mm-hmm.
Between, you know, I know it doesn't look at it right now, but Elijah Moore is still a very good player. You know, Michael Carter is making an impact. You have Elijah Vera Tucker could be one of the best offensive linemen in the league right now. I mean, there are a lot. And then there's also guys like Brandon Eccles who are making an impact. Saved them in the Dolphin game. And these are the low-round picks. that you did that. Those are the foundational guys. Those are the guys you really build around more than anything.
And I was like, even look at like a guy like Max Mitchell,
Yeah.
fourth round pick. When he was getting his reps this year, he looked pretty good. Granted, he got injured, so we don't really know. But for what we saw, he looked pretty good. And that's where, like you just said, that's the meat and potatoes right there of the team.
Michael Clemens getting after the quarterback. He's another fourth round pick they had. Mm-hmm. It's always those are the things you want to see because that's the foundation for next year. Denzel Mims is getting reps now, and he's actually made some big catch. He made a huge catch in the Buffalo game.
He's made big catches and he's made big blocks too, and I think that's even more impressive.
Now you got to figure out a way to get Elijah Moore more involved because I don't know if you really want to get rid of Elijah Moore. I don't think the Jets want to get rid of him. I think the Jets want to hold on to him. Okay, so they're going to put him in the slot now for the game against the Patriots. Good, do it. Listen, I love Braxton Berrios. I love that they brought Braxton Berrios back. But Braxton Berrios is also that guy that he's kind of a gimmicky player. You know what I mean? Like he's good for a jet sweep. He's good on kick returns. He's a dangerous special teams guy, and that's really what you want him for there the most. He's not a guy that's going to carry the load for the offense.
Right.
He's a guy you're going to bring in a few plays if you need like a third. Like he reminds me of like a prototypical third down receiver.
Yeah.
A guy that's going to get you, if you need 7 yards, he'll fight to get you 8 to get the first down. Elijah Moore is the guy you want on the field more often, though. I know the Jets love Braxton Berrios, and I'm a huge Berrios guy. Mm-hmm. But he comes off to me as more of a gimmicky player. He's not a guy you want to use on the field for 50% of the snaps.
Right.
That's the guy you want to give to Elijah Moore. Now imagine finding a way of putting Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, and either Corey Davis or Denzel Mims on the field. Ty Conklin having a great season for the Jets. CJ Uzomah is getting more involved now in the offense. Sky's the limit, man. And this defense has actually played really well. Here's a crazy part too. He take it for how you want it, but Ashton Davis has kind of redeveloped and designed himself as a special teams player.
He's looked really good. Our special teams in general has looked really good.
Only one of 5 teams to have a punt block this year for a touchdown. I've been really impressed with the way they're doing things. And again, this is what we wanted to see. This is why you can't jump the gun with these types of development. You have to give it time. Because look what happened. Now we gave it time, and look how good they are.
Exactly. Like Craig, you mentioned, we came into this season maybe 7 wins we would get.
Maybe.
I looked at the rest of our schedule. I'm looking at 4 to 6 wins maybe on a good day. 4 to 6 wins. That'll put us in a 10-win mark. I was not even close to sniffing 10 wins this year. Not even close.
Listen, they have a very favorable schedule the second half of the year. They have Jacksonville, they have Detroit, they have Chicago. You still have to play Buffalo on the road. You have to play Minnesota on the road. You have to play Miami on the road. And you have a game with the Seahawks on the road. But overall, it's favorable. The Jets don't look like an automatic loss anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look like an automatic loss. And I really wanted it to work out because I really didn't want to see the Jets put in a position where they have to fire Douglas or they have to fire Saleh. This is why you don't get rid of Joe Douglas. This is why you don't get rid of Robert Saleh. It takes time. And I get it from a fan perspective. I get it from the fact of, we don't have time to wait. We don't have time. This is bullshit. I'm sick of waiting. I just want to win already. I've had enough. But again, he has to correct all the years of terrible drafting. He has to correct all the years of terrible contracts that players didn't come remotely close to living up to. It's going to take a few years. But now that you know that most likely next year Zach is going to be your starting quarterback, you are pretty much set at running back. You are pretty much set at wide receiver. Your offensive line could use a right tackle, if anything. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the rest of the line is going to be good to go. Maybe a center, because I don't know if Connor McGovern is going to be permanently on this team. Okay? Your defense is pretty much intact right now. You probably could use a little help at linebacker and a little help at safety. But those necessities are not as glaring as they were a year ago.
Yeah, you look at the Jets roster a year ago, like you're mentioning, you could have named out. You could have said one position I think we needed. I could have said another. We could have asked three more people. They all could have said this was a top priority for us going into the offseason, whether it was wide receiver, linebacker, defensive line, safety, corner. There was tons of holes everywhere. Now when you're going into 2023 offseason, maybe one or two you got to fix. That's it.
Yeah. And you can aggressively go after one player without having to fix 7 other things.
Mm-hmm.
You can also address those needs in the draft. And with Joe Douglas's last 2 drafts, I can't fucking wait to see what he does in 23.
Oh, absolutely.
My guess is he'll probably wait to the draft to get a lineman rather than sign one in free agency. I think he'll want to get like a young kid out of like college to wherever they wind up picking.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, we still have Mekhi Becton on the roster. Not that I'm having any hope for him next year, but they have to. I think Joe Douglas has to have in mind that he might be in contention to start, because if not, they would have just cut his ass.
You can go down that road if you want to, but there's no way that Joe Douglas can go into 2023 banking on Mekhi Becton.
No, you're absolutely right though. Maybe like a second round pick.
Honestly, at this stage in the game, Mekhi Becton is a reserve offensive lineman. You don't know if you can trust the knee.
Mm-hmm.
He's, he still has a bit some weight issues. No one's saying he can't do the job, but I think it's unfair to expect Mekhi Becton to just slide right into that left tackle spot and be ready to go for 16. Ain't gonna happen.
No, you're absolutely right.
But right now, it's fun to be a Jet fan again. It's fun to be excited about this team. It's fun to see the Twitter updates and they're like scoring touchdowns. It's not all doom and gloom anymore. It's fun listening to Jet podcasts and hear them talk about how excited they are that they beat the Bills. I mean, when was the last time we could ever experience things like that?
No, like I said, I haven't been excited, really excited about a Jets team like this. 2010, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we hit on Sauce, that we hit on Garrett Wilson, that we hit on Jermaine Johnson, and we hit on Breece Hall. And then we wind up in the 4th round with 2 other big contributors in Max Mitchell and Michael Clemens. Next year, I expect Jeremy Rucker to be a little bit more involved.
Yes.
Next year, I don't know what it means for Corey Davis. I love Corey Davis, but he's injury prone. And I don't think the Jets are going to keep him around next year. I think they're going to cut him if they know they can get out from under the cap hit.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, Denzel Mims has kind of stepped in and been like a decent receiver on the outside. So I could see me easily giving Denzel Mims the job. And then this will pave the way for Elijah Moore to be more of a focal point, as well as Garrett Wilson and whoever else they add. I mean, it's just been fun. It's been fun to enjoy a football season. It's just been, when was the last time we could ever say that, Klim? And hopefully it continues on Sunday when they play the Patriots, because I think they're going to be hungry for that game. I don't think that game at MetLife left a bad taste in their mouth. And something tells me they're going to come ready to play. And the thing is with Zach, I don't need Zach to be a 400-yard passer every week. I don't need Zach Wilson to throw for 380 and 3 touchdowns to gain my respect. I just need to see him manage the team right now. You have the running game. You have the weapons. You don't need to make risky throws. You don't need to run backwards trying to scramble away from a pass rusher. Just understand the situation. And it's like I've heard on all the Jet podcasts and the Jet shows. Understand the fact that you live to fight another day. If you got to throw it out of bounds, just throw it out of bounds. If you have to take a sack, take a sack. Just slide.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put yourself or the team in a jeopardizing position, because that's what's going to turn the fans off. If Zach puts up 180 yards and throws no picks and throws a touchdown, I'm fine with it. I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't need him to be a 350-yard passer every week. I don't. I just simply don't.
No, you're absolutely right with that, too. And granted, yeah, would I like to see him do that? Absolutely. What Jet fan wouldn't want to see Zach Wilson throw for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns? What he's doing is what's perfect for this offense. He's a game manager. He's a field general. That's what you're seeing out there from Zach Wilson. He's not making, these big flashy plays. And when he does, it looks great. Don't get me wrong. But he's managing the field. He's managing the game. And that's what you want to see out of your quarterback, really. Like, when your defense is this good, I would say the Jets have a top 5 defense in the league right now. And when your defense is that good, all Zach Wilson has to do is just march down the field, get field goal, touchdown, whatever it is, and just do his job. And that's what he's doing. Like you said, would I like to see him throw 300 yards? Absolutely. What Jet fan wouldn't? But he's doing a good job right now. Like I said, he's doing a serviceable job at quarterback. Like I'm not upset with him. I'm not upset with the way Zach Wilson is playing right now.
So, listen, it's fun to be a Jet fan, and hey, with all due respect, it's fun to be a Giants fan too right now because they're playing really good football under Daboll in their first year. They got another win last night over the Texans, and what's interesting about this Giants season, Klim, and listen, I am not going to belittle anything the Giants have done right now. I think they've played very good. They didn't play that great yesterday, though. I wasn't blown away by the way they played, especially because they let the Texans hang around for as long as they did. But it puts an interesting scenario into play, and that is knowing full well that Saquon Barkley had another monster game yesterday against the Texans, and Daniel Jones is doing everything right. Have the Giants sort of backed themselves into a corner here now when it comes to next year with giving Saquon a lucrative extension or franchising Daniel Jones because they didn't give him the 5th-year option? Did they? I mean, it's an interesting scenario because next year, hypothetically, the Giants keep winning. It's going to take them out of getting a quarterback in the draft. We can agree on that, right?
Yes.
So any, C.J. Stroud or whoever's going to be in the draft next year is probably not going to happen because the Giants, the way they are right now, they're going to be picking low in the draft. The second part of it is what free agents are going to be out there? Who's going to be available by trade?
Right.
Everybody immediately pivots to Lamar Jackson. They're not going to get Lamar Jackson. I wouldn't hold my breath for Lamar Jackson because, first of all, the Ravens are going to franchise him anyway, so you're not going to get him regardless. And if you do get him, you're going to have to give up a ton to get Lamar Jackson. And you have to sign him. You're going to have to give him a big contract. You're going to have to give him $1 million. Like, do you really want to do that? That's the question.
No, you don't. And I'm looking at it right now, like the free agent list. The only name that really stands that like comes off the board is Tom Brady, but he's not going to go to the fucking Giants. He might retire. Yeah, exactly. And the other names are Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jimmy G, Teddy Bridgewater. You mean to tell me any of those guys are better than what Daniel Jones is doing right now? No, they're not.
I mean, honestly, if I had to choose between Jimmy G and Daniel Jones, I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
I mean, you can still. I'll say you could give Daniel Jones a 1-year deal and be like, "Look, this is it. You have 1 more year to prove it to us." And we draft. I think they will address the quarterback in the draft. I doubt whether it's Will Levis, Hooker, whoever it is, they'll address the quarterback somehow in some way in this draft class. Be like, "Look, we're giving you one year. Prove yourself to us, or this guy's going to be the starter." I think that's what's going to end up being because, like you said, they backed themselves into a corner.
Listen, Daniel Jones, I have to give him a lot of credit. He's risen to the occasion. He's played well. He hasn't really turned the ball over very much. He's leading the offense down the field. I can't. If you're a Giant fan, you really can't be disappointed with that.
No,
you should be happy with that.
Again, like I would say, like with the Jets, like what Zach Wilson's doing, that's what Daniel Jones is doing. He's managing the game. He's being a game manager, which is looking fantastic. And I've said it to you in the past, and I've said it on different. I've talked to different people about this within the years. That it's not that the Giants' offense was ever bad. It's just that this Giants' offense is built around Saquon Barkley, and you're clearly seeing that as well as they. That you take Saquon out of this equation, that's it for the Giants' offense. It doesn't matter who's the quarterback. It doesn't matter who your wide receivers are. This offense runs around Saquon Barkley, and you saw that especially yesterday in the Texans game, and you've seen that all season. When Saquon's healthy, this offense is good.
But it presents an interesting dilemma, and that is, do you want to invest big money in a running back?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my concern. If you're the Giants right now, you still have to be concerned about that. You cannot forget about the fact that the last 2 years before this year, by the way, Saquon contract year, the last 2 years before this season, Saquon has suffered some pretty bad injuries where he's missed significant time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't escape that. So it's got to be reasonable, in my opinion. It can't be, okay, we're going to give Saquon whatever he wants. You got to be careful with how you approach those negotiations. Now, in the case of Daniel Jones, I think that you don't have to break the bank for Daniel Jones. Because Daniel Jones has not proven enough to warrant that big contract. He hasn't proven enough, but he's proving it slowly. And again, it brings up a dilemma if you're a Giant fan. Do you want Daniel Jones to be the long-term answer for this team? Or you're not going to get him on a one-year deal because there are going to be other teams that might want him, especially on a 2 or 3 year contract. Who's number one priority? Is it your highly productive but often injured running back, or a quarterback that's showing you some good things, but you don't have enough of a measuring stick to really, really get a full assessment?
I think as the season plays on, that's what we're gonna have to try and prioritize. Is like you just mentioned, do they want to take the running back or the quarterback?
Does Daniel Jones need weapons? Is the question. That's another part of it. Kenny Golladay has proven to be a huge bust. Probably not going to be back with the team next year. They traded Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs, who promptly scored a touchdown in his Chiefs debut this week. So you can't build your offense around Darius Slayton as your wide receiver. You don't really have a tight end. Your offensive line is good. It's fine. Your defense played really well yesterday, but again, I have a tough time with it because it's the freaking Texans.
Right.
Davis Mills stinks. Lovie Smith is a terrible coach. They have a very good running back in Dameon Pierce and not much of anything else. If that had been a better team, the Giants would have lost that game yesterday.
Yeah, because the Giants didn't play again. It was only Saquon doing things.
If you have Dayball ripping you apart on the sideline, you're not doing your job. So, there's nothing wrong with being happy about a win. And the Giants definitely, they've played hard for Dayball, which is what you love to see if you're a Giant fan. But it brings up a very interesting dilemma, and I'm curious to see how that's going to happen in the offseason. They're not going to blow it up because they're a competitive team now. They are a competitive football team. They have a good defense. They have a good offensive line. Saquon is very electric when he gets the ball. The only concern you have with Saquon is he's had 2 pretty brutal injuries, and committing a lot of money full-time to him, that's a major risk. I don't care what anybody says. It's why nobody really does it in the NFL anymore with running backs. They don't want to commit that kind of money. You saw it with the Panthers with Christian McCaffrey. How many times did he get hurt after signing that contract? Okay? You don't want to commit big money to some of these guys sometimes. You just don't.
No, I'm with you. I'm really with you, but I can so see the Giants be like, we got to pay this man because he is our offense. They have nothing else. Like you mentioned, Kenny Golladay, bust. They just traded Kadarius Toney.
Here's the thing: it's no longer Dave Gettleman either. Now it's Joe Shane, and the thing is he's going to be a little different with negotiations. He comes from a very reputable organization in Buffalo. He knows how to negotiate a contract, whereas Gettleman just threw money at everybody and they paid the price for it later. But that's what's the beauty about this season, Klim, is like, not only are you excited about being a Jets fan, but you're excited about if you're a Giant fan, you're even more excited because you definitely did not expect the team to be this good. And that's what happens sometimes when you have good, solid coaching.
Exactly. Wink Martindale and Brian Daboll have been fantastic.
And if you want my honest opinion, next year, Wink Martindale will be the head coach of another team.
Oh, absolutely. He's absolutely earned that right. Absolutely.
You can expect him to be the head coach of another team. I don't know which one it is. Obviously, Carolina's a possibility. There's the, I don't know if the Raiders are a possibility, but they might be. there are a lot of options right now for a lot of these teams. The Colts are a possibility. I mean, but it's pretty exciting right now. New York football right now is pretty exciting, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say. All right, let's do baseball because we haven't been on the air since the Mets got eliminated and the Yankees got eliminated. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into the Mets shit. The fact is the Mets screwed the pooch. They were embarrassing in that NLD in the wild card series against the Padres. Buck doing the bullshit with the checking to see if Musgrove was cheating was just bad enough. However, now we get into this offseason with the Mets. Free agency has, I guess, started, but it always is really quiet around this time of the year. It doesn't really start picking up until the winter meetings in December. And the primary thing I'm going to say right now, Klim, and I really believe this, I don't think Jacob deGrom is coming back.
I agree with you. I don't think it's happening either.
I don't. He doesn't look thrilled with the possibility of coming back. Mm-hmm. Okay. The crazy part, Klim, I'm not sure the Mets want him back. And I know that that's a bit extreme when I say that, but there's a few things here. Number one, there's no way the Mets are going to be able to afford Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer on the same payroll and figure out how to pay for all the other stuff they need. So there's the first thing. And you just gave Edwin Diaz $20 million a year to be the closer on this team.
And you're still paying Lindor.
That's a lot of scratch, man. And the Mets have a lot of issues that they have to fix right now. Okay? You take away that money. So let's say deGrom hypothetically gets within $40 to $45 million a year. Okay? That money can be put to good use fixing other parts of the team. Mm-hmm. You could still round out your rotation and still go have a solid rotation going into next season with Max Scherzer as your ace. There's a lot of rumors going around right now that the Mets have been talking to the Rays about Tyler Glasnow. So that could be kind of interesting. I know he just had Tommy John surgery, but the possibility of putting Tyler Glasnow in this rotation would be pretty impressive. He's young. He's under team control. And again, he'd be a nice little 2 or a 3 in this Mets rotation. Then you got to figure out what you're going to do with Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo, apparently, one team that could go after Brandon Nimmo big time, although I don't understand why, are the Colorado Rockies. Supposedly, they're willing to give him like $100 million. That was the rumor going around. You can have Brandon Nimmo for $100 million. I'm not paying Brandon Nimmo $100 million. The reason why I'm not going to pay Brandon Nimmo that kind of money is very simple. Number one, I could put Starling Marte in center field, and I don't lose my center fielder. And the other part is I could find a leadoff hitter that does what Brandon Nimmo does. It's not that hard.
Starling Marte.
Yeah, Starling Marte, or just anybody in general. So I don't get the sense that deGrom wants to come back. Apparently, one team that's going to throw big plans to go after him big time are the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers just hired Bruce Bochy to be their manager. I have to admit I'm a little surprised by that move by Bochy because I figured he gets one last hurrah to win a ring. Mm-hmm. The Texas Rangers don't scream championship contender.
They don't, but if they're going to continue to keep throwing money at a guy like, let's say they go after deGrom and they're going to go after someone else because that's what they've been doing the past couple of years, maybe Bruce Bochy is the guy to bring this team around. I mean, sometimes like look at the Mets, for example. They needed a competent manager in here to turn them around, and the Mets were arguably the best team in baseball this whole year.
Now, apparently, deGrom is interested in being in Texas. Like, he's interested in playing for the Rangers. So that could, if he's going to go anywhere, I hope he goes there. But because I don't want to see him in Atlanta. But at the same time, I'd be really happy for deGrom if he wins a ring because, quite frankly, he deserves it. The Mets wasted him for a long time. The Mets never gave him the run support he needed more times than not. The thing about deGrom and the hesitancy with me wanting to bring deGrom back to the Mets is while he pitched terrific the second half of this year, we have to forget that he's missed up to a year with injuries, and he's 34, and that scares me.
You're absolutely right. The past, was it 22? The past 4-5 years, maybe.
Excluding about DeGrom, wish he was here, but at the same time, you can't force him to be here, and you don't want to get into a thing where you're basically bidding against yourself.
Exactly. And like I was gonna say, you even look at this year in general. The Mets were, like I just mentioned, arguably the best team in baseball the whole year, and that was without Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom pitched a month for us, and that was it. Maybe
they can go without him. They don't necessarily need him. If you find the right pieces for the rotation, you fix the bullpen, and you maybe get a little bit more hitting, I think the Mets will be fine. I think the Mets,
because right now,
I don't want to lose him.
Right now, no, you're absolutely right. No one wants to lose a guy like Jacob deGrom. Like, he's arguably top 3 pitcher the Mets have had in their franchise. But if when it comes down to it, it's just the brass tacks of it. You can't afford him. But right now, the Mets rotation is looking like, with the addition of bringing back Carrasco, which I'm not a big fan of that deal, by the way. You'll have.
I understand you wouldn't be, but I understand why they did it, and they did.
Oh no, yeah, I understand why they did it too. I'm just not
in a situation where you have to replace 4 starters next year. Walker's a free agent. Bassett opted out. DeGrom may not be back, and then Carrasco may not be back. Carrasco did his job as far as I'm concerned. Did he have a few bad outings? Of course he did. But I think overall he pitched well enough to earn that 14. And honestly, it's only $14 million. I don't think that's a lot. That's not a lot of money. I would love to see Taijuan Walker come back, to be very honest. But I don't think he's coming back. Especially, I think Boris is his agent, and Boris is going to want to get big money for him.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back either.
Bassett's probably not coming back either. So
I was going to say, I think he is coming back. I think he really likes being here.
I'm not sure. Honestly, I wouldn't break the bank for him because when we needed him in big spots, he failed. Mm-hmm. He failed in Game 3 of the wild card game against the Padres. He failed in the big series against Atlanta that basically cost the Mets the division. Okay? In big spots, he failed. I have a big issue with that. I can't pay big money for that. Yeah. I need a guy who's going to go out there and give his all against Atlanta. We play in a tough division now. Atlanta, Philadelphia, who just went to the World Series this year, us, Washington's about to get a new ownership group. They could be spenders in free agency. The Marlins are the team that always give the Mets fits. There's always a team that's a pain in the ass to another team. For the Yankees, we always said it was Tampa. Now I think it's more Houston. For the Mets, it's always been Miami. So Billy Epler has his work cut out for him here, and he's got to figure out what he's going to do. It's not going to be easy. You might see a complete overhaul of this roster next year. You might see new faces.
I was going to say, yeah, you're good. I fully believe that you will have 3 rookies on this, maybe in the starting lineup next year between Beatty, Vientos, and Alvarez.
I don't think that. I definitely don't see Alvarez. I don't think Alvarez is ready.
I don't think so either, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just I
think Beatty will make the team. I think Beatty will make the team and platoon with Escobar. Mm-hmm. Escobar definitely earned a shot to be back next year. I definitely expect the Mets to trade Dom Smith at some point. I could actually see him getting traded to Tampa if the Mets want to go after Tampa pitching, which apparently Tampa is willing to deal, which is just, again, I never understand what that franchise is doing. But it's one guy who I would love to see the Mets bring in to pair with Lindor, Gene Segura. I would love to see Gene Segura on the Mets.
I mean, look, I've always been a Segura fan.
If he's willing to play second base, which I think he is, because he played second base last year, sign him up. I'm dead serious. Bring him back. Bring him in. I'm telling you, he'd be great. And I think he could be a leadoff hitter.
And you mentioned, now that you're mentioning guys to pair with Lindor, the name that's being tossed around for the Mets, at least, has been Trey Turner. And man, you bring in a guy like
honestly, I would love to see Trey Turner on the Mets. I would love to see Trey Turner on the Mets. I've been hearing a lot of different things about Trey Turner. That apparently the Phillies really want him, the Dodgers want to bring him back. So I don't really know how serious the Trey Turner to the Mets rumors are. But if you bring in a guy like Segura to play second base, you can move McNeil to the outfield, which he might be better suited for. And then after that, then you short up your entire infield. Alonso, Segura, Lindor, Escobar / Beatty. You have to see if you can get a better catcher. You also have to see if you can find somebody to take James McCann.
Yeah.
Might be easier said than done. But his contract's not terrible. He has 2 years, $20 million left on his deal. So I think it's doable for a bad team that needs to take on some money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a terrible move for them. And you never know. In an environment where he's not under a lot of pressure, he could possibly thrive. If
That's true.
For Pirates where they're going nowhere, he can thrive in that. He might be able to thrive in that environment. Or a park like Cincinnati's, which is a very hitter-friendly park.
I was gonna say, like you mentioned before, maybe he could be involved in the Tampa Bay trade. Who knows?
So this is the fun part about the hot stove. It's all about just speculation, and you hope trades go through and everything. Now we segue to a team like the Yankees, who, I'm sorry, it's another disappointing season in my opinion, because you have to win the World Series. It's not about going there anymore. You have to win. And the problem I had with the Yankees was you beat the Guardians, but the Guardians took you to 5. That shouldn't have even happened in the first place.
Mm-mm.
But then you got swept by the Astros. And the thing is, not only did you get swept by the Astros, but you played better in Houston than you did in the Bronx. I thought they played a tougher series in Houston, and they got to Game 3 in the Bronx. Garrett Cole, huge spot. Cole pitched fine. He pitched well. I'm not criticizing Garrett Cole by any stretch. But Boone got scared. Astros started, threatening, immediately pulled Garrett Cole. And then what happened? The floodgates opened up. And just like that, they lost 5-0 in Game 3 and lost 6-5 in Game 4. This core has to be broken up in some way, shape, or form. Now, obviously, the Yankees really can't do much until they get this Aaron Judge thing out of the way. They have to get this once and for all. And here's the thing, Klim. They have zero leverage. Zero.
Oh, yeah.
0.0 leverage. None. Because not only did Judge bet on himself and win, but other teams took notice. And those other teams are now going to come after Judge with everything they've got. I'm talking San Francisco. I am talking the Dodgers. And although I highly doubt it, the Mets are a possibility. Although a distant possibility. I don't see the Mets going full steam ahead for Aaron Judge.
No, you're absolutely right. And I remember you and I both talked about this prior to the season happening when we were talking about, Aaron Judge and him saying no to his deal. I'm like, I think we both said he was not, that wasn't a smart move, because God forbid he gets injured. And you said he was banking on, like you just said, he was banking on himself to play good and stay healthy, which he's never been. And fucking stays healthy all year. Has one of the best years has one of the best offensive seasons in MLB history.
Exactly. And the thing is, right now, depending on what it is, I still personally can't see him leaving the Bronx, but anything is possible. And the thing is Cashman really Cashman blew this one big time. But one thing you've also noticed, Klim, is, Cashman's trades have not been that good over the last year or so. The Benintendi trade this year was good. It was unfortunate that Benintendi got hurt. That's not Cashman's fault. So, but Benintendi started out slow in with the Yankees, but he got better, and then he broke his wrist, and then that's an unfortunate. That's not Cashman's fault. Okay. However, when he didn't get Luis Castillo because he didn't want to include Anthony Volpe or Jason Dominguez in a trade, he pivoted to Frankie Montez. And Frankie Montez was it was a weird consolation prize. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like it was like, oh my God, this is so great. We got Frankie Montez. Okay. And the truth of the matter is that I was surprised they went after him, knowing full well that the last time they traded for an Oakland pitcher, which was Sonny Gray, was a complete disaster. And Frankie Montez was a complete bust, to the point where he didn't even make the ALDS roster against the Guardians. And he only came in, I think he only made one appearance in the ALCS against the Astros, promptly gave up a home run. So that is a Cashman trade blunder. The Josh Donaldson trade, in my opinion, is a Cashman trade blunder. I never understood the trade in the first place unless it was just to get rid of Gary Sanchez. And I think he fell in love with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Kiner-Falefa's defense was great. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. But I thought the lineups were weird in the ALCS because they started 3 different shortstops. Mm-hmm. So where's the confidence in IKF at that point?
Yeah, because you talk IKF up this whole season, and he had a good season. We're not going to discredit him for the way he played. But like you mentioned, like you talked him up all year, and then you don't start him in the playoffs. You start the rookie Oswald. I mean, like I like him too. I like Oswald. He's good. But you got nothing in like. There's no like where are you going with this? Like you can't even like what the heck?
And then on top of that, Donaldson was terrible. He was terrible in the postseason. He was striking out all the time, and you have to deal with another $20 million of that contract next season, which normally you wouldn't want to do.
Right.
The Yankees are eventually going to need a new voice. Now, they brought back Boone and Cashman for next year, but how do they fix it? Where do they fix it? There's already talk that the Astros are going to make a play for Rizzo at free agency. Rizzo was one of your best hitters, even though he didn't really hit for average, he hit for power. Then you got to figure out what you're going to do with Aaron Judge. How do you handle the center field situation with Judge if Judge leaves, which I don't think he will. I'm still not sure if he will. What about Aaron Hicks? How do you get rid of Aaron Hicks, who's been awful? What about Gleyber Torres? Not blown away by Gleyber Torres. I'm just not. Again, he was one of those guys labeled a blue chip, can't miss prospect. And he hasn't lived up to that for the last couple of years. How do you fix the rotation? You have Jameson Taillon, who's a free agent. Or how about Aroldis Chapman, who didn't even make the roster because he was being an asshole? Okay? I mean, the Yankees have some major issues. And also one of the guys they acquired at the trade deadline this past year, Scott Efros, needs Tommy John surgery, so he's out for the season. You're not even going to have him in 23. The Yankees have to break up this core, and they have to figure out how to do it in some way, shape, or form. You can't run it back with the same roster next year. It's just not going to work.
Me and you have been saying this for the past few years now, that the Yankees have been getting this far, and they're just not good enough. To be perfectly honest, I think it's Aaron Boone. I don't think he's a good manager. I never thought he should have been the manager of the Yankees. And how many years in a row are you going to get to the playoffs and come just this close, or you're going to get swept out of the playoffs by whether it was the Red Sox or the Astros or whatever team beats you that you guys should have beat? You know, like you mentioned, they should have never went 5 games with the Guardians. You know, they should have put up a better fight with the Astros this year. Like, these things should have never happened. And I think, to be perfectly honest, I think it boils down to Aaron Boone. I really do. I don't think he's a good manager.
He's been questionable, but the one thing about Aaron Boone you can't take away is the fact is every year he's been the manager, he's led the team into the postseason. That type of continuity is tough to replace. It's tough.
You're right, but I think any blind monkey could lead a team that has Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole, a good pitcher in Nestor Cortez. I mean, to be perfectly honest, you could take Luis Rojas off the third base coaching position and make him the head coach, and he can get them to the playoffs.
But it's also a case of managers managing scared, okay?
Yeah.
Like, look at the World Series with the Phillies when Rob Thompson pulled Zach Wheeler, or he pulled Aaron Nola and he brought in Alvarado. And then what happened? Alvarado gave up like a 3-run homer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's what I mean. you got scared and you didn't have confidence in your starter. And Zach Wheeler is one of your best starting pitchers, if not your best starting pitcher. And you didn't have confidence in him to get out of that inning. So you pulled him for a guy. Listen, the Phillies bullpen still sucks. They've had a nice run, but they still suck at the end of the day. And you broke the you went with a guy who has pitched well but is volatile. Mm-hmm. And what happened? He made you pay the Astros made you pay the price. Because that's what the Astros do well. They take advantage of your miscues and they use it against you, and it burns you more times than not. The thing is that the Yankees have to start. They have to break up this core. I don't know how that's going to be. I just don't know what they're going to do. And the crazy thing is, if Judge really wants to, he can drag this out for months.
Oh, yeah.
And that could hurt the Yankees because other free agents could be like, well, I'm not waiting for you guys. I'm going to go sign with another team. And the thing is now, it's not what it used to be. Other teams are spending money now. The Texas Rangers want to spend money because they want to compete. They're tired of being last place. They have a World Series winning manager in Bruce Bochy. You don't think they're going to try to give him an elite roster?
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said,
they have hitters. They have plenty of hitters. They just got to get the rotation to go with it. So if they give Jacob deGrom $45 million a year for 3 years, it's not a bad deal if you think about it. I mean, but it depends on if he wants to go there.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But if Jacob deGrom sees Bruce Bochy's managing the Texas Rangers, he's going to be like, this guy's a freaking World Series winning manager. This is exactly who I want to play for.
Exactly.
Other teams are spending money. The Tigers spent money last year. You know, one of the few teams that didn't really spend money were the Guardians, excuse me. The Guardians didn't really spend that much money. They wound up cutting payroll more than anything. The Mariners spent money this year. The Mariners just gave Luis Castillo a brand new extension. Very team-friendly one, to be honest. And it puts them in a position to land other players. The thing is, it's not the Yankees and everyone else anymore. The Yankees are kind of falling into that pack of teams, of a bunch of teams who couldn't compete. Toronto was disappointing this year. Doesn't mean they're going to be disappointing next year. Mm-hmm. The Guardians are a tough out. The Astros are still the kings of the league. You have Tampa, who always gives the Yankees a pain, always gives them fits. Boston could be spending money next year.
Angels. Now that they're done with,
even though they need pitching more than anything. But you see what I'm getting at. You see, like, the fact is right now is that the Yankees have wasted a lot of opportunity to win that elusive title they haven't won since 2009. And now, this is where Cashman, again, he's got to figure out a way, and he does. And Cashman is a great GM. I think it's a simple case at this stage that Cashman he might need to go to another team to really get, I think this bores him in many ways. He doesn't know how else to fix this team.
Yeah,
because
like
he's put together the roster 100 times over. He gave you a good rotation this year with Garrett Cole, Severino, Taillon, Nestor Cortez, and who am I missing? Montgomery. Until they traded Montgomery. And they got Harrison Bader, and Harrison Bader turned out to be a good spark plug for them in the playoffs. Has he made his fair share of bonehead deals? Yes, he has, but so do a lot of GMs. A lot of GMs make bonehead decisions. So at this point, you have to – I don't know what else Cashman can do for this roster. The only thing he could do at this point is go out and get Ohtani. And it costs you Jason Dominguez and 3 other prospects. But how many prospects do the Yankees even have? They've traded away a lot of them over the last 2 years. So the core is there. The core has to be fixed, though, and it has to be broken up. And they have to figure out. It's going to be a tough way to do it, though. You don't know if Tyon's coming back after this year. He's a free agent. You have to fix your bullpen. You know, your bullpen will probably not have Aroldis Chapman. Zach Britton is pretty much done. Efros, who you were really counting on to be that late inning guy, had Tommy John surgery, so he's going to miss 3/4 of next season. So who's left besides Loizaga and Marinaccio? I mean, this is going to be another crucial offseason for the Yankees.
Really is, like you said. Like they gotta do something different. You know, they can't run out this same roster.
No,
you know, they really can't. This has been the same formula the past 5 years, maybe, with some pieces added here and there. And it just hasn't been it. It really hasn't.
All right, let's jump to basketball real quickly. Nets and Knicks. We haven't really talked about the Nets drama with Kyrie Irving apparently hating Jews. And, I mean, what else is there a way to say it? You know, he doesn't like Jewish people. I mean, it's plain and simple.
I couldn't believe that. That was just so stupid of him.
Well, here's the problem I have with it. It's just like, again, you see, honestly, Klim, if we brought back the Knob tournament and we had Matt Stevens, he would be a #1 seed by far. He'd probably win the whole fucking thing.
Right? That's why I'm like, this guy he's just a moron. Like, how stupid can you be?
Because he only cares about himself. That's why.
Yeah. And even in his, like, when he first came out to the press about all this, like when he finally, like, days later, he was like, I'm a beacon of light, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're talking about yourself. You're not even, like, apologizing. Like.
But the bigger issue is like, again, it's the ignorance of it all. You see, here's my problem with Kyrie Irving. All last year, you know what I fucking heard from this guy all last year? Well, I need to do more research on how to get the COVID vaccine. I need to do more research on the COVID vaccine. I don't want to get the COVID vaccine, but I need to do more research. I'm not sold on it yet. Klim, for an entire year, this is what we dealt with. Okay? So, you keep saying it, just fucking say you don't want the vaccine. And I'd be more happy with that. See, I'm one of these people that if you don't want to get it, don't get it. But do me a fucking favor. Don't gloat about it on Facebook like, I'm not putting that shit in my arm. I'm not doing this. Because no one fucking cares. No one cares about your animosity towards a vaccine. No one cares. Okay? You either get it or you don't. I don't care which one you pick. Just fucking make a decision. Very simple. Now, religion continues to be a very polarizing subject. You have to be careful how you say things, okay? It's like if I said, it's like, you ever see those movies where the person gets like harassed by a minority, like African Americans or, you know, whatever, and they say, oh, well, those people, and they trap themselves, right? What do you mean those people? Okay? You have to be careful how you say things nowadays. You have to be understanding of what you're putting out there. If you're going to do that much research on getting a vaccine, okay, and to be brutally honest, I don't know how much research you need to do on it because it's just a fucking shot in an arm. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a shot in the arm. You feel like shit for a day, and then you feel better. Okay? But here's the question. If you had to do that much research on a vaccine, why did you do more research on this movie you uploaded or you shared on your Twitter or whatever social media?
But that's what I was like saying. Like, people ask me, they're like, "Oh, do you think Kyrie's like?" I'm like,
yes,
well,
I do. I do. I think he doesn't like Jewish people. I don't know what it is. I don't think he likes Jewish people. And
I was gonna say, like, when I first like heard about this whole thing, I'm like, "Oh, Kyrie, like, he's just an idiot." But the more I thought about it and everything, I'm like, Kyrie's not an idiot. He is, but he's not, if you know what I'm saying. Like, he's not an idiot. He knows exactly what he did. He didn't just be like, oh, whoops, like, I did this by accident, never really saw the movie, or, oh, hey, my account got hacked. Like, no, he's not an idiot. He's just, there's just no words for him really, because he really is, like the caption says below me, he is a dumbass. He's a full-blown dumbass.
But the thing is, Klim, he's all about himself. That's all this is. It's just a way for him, because he's an attention whore. He has to have attention all the time. He has to have people talking about him all the time. He has to. This is just how he is. And the thing is, but this is what bothers me about Kyrie Irving. You signed with the fucking Brooklyn Nets because this was your hometown team. This is the team you grew up with as a kid. This is the team you grew up rooting for as a kid. This is the team you watched on TV all the time. Okay? That's all I heard when he signed with the Brooklyn Nets. Okay? Granted, they were in New Jersey, but they're still the Nets. All right? If that's how you feel about this team, then why in God's name would you put yourself through all this crap and embarrass this organization any which way you can? See, that's what I don't understand about these guys. And social media is going to be the downfall of a lot of these athletes too. Okay? Because a lot of times these dumbasses put stuff out there and they don't realize it, that people have seen it and they delete it. Okay? And people take screenshots of those pictures because there are people in this world, Klim, that are obsessed with celebrities. They are obsessed with athletes. If Kyrie Irving's taking a shit tomorrow, everybody wants to see it on Instagram because they're just obsessed. That's what social media has done with these ads. That's why the Kardashians are so famous. That's why Kendall Jenner is a billionaire, because people are obsessed with her. It's fucking ridiculous, because they're no talents. They have no talent whatsoever to do anything else. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. But this is the crap you get with Kyrie Irving. And he is an attention whore. He's like Kanye West. He's like every other goddamn celebrity out there that is so attention starved. They live and die by social media. That's it. Social media has really ruined a lot of people. It's also just ruined our way of life. And if this is your team, this is your hometown team, then why are you putting this team through all this bullshit? Why? Why are you doing it? Because he can't help himself. And he thinks he's untouchable. He believes he is untouchable, 1,000% untouchable. That doesn't matter what he puts out there. Tomorrow, they'll just respect him. It was like what Kanye West said like last week when he said, "Oh, I could say whatever I want. Adidas, they'll never drop me." A week later, Adidas dropped
his ass. Dropped his ass.
Okay? Because these guys are dumb. They're dumb. They don't know what they're writing. They don't know what they're posting. They put these cryptic tweets out there because they just want the attention. Why did Elijah Moore put a tweet out about these really cryptic tweets about he's a team player, but he doesn't get why he's not getting this and that? It's because they're attention starved. No one cares about them after a while. So they have to do something. It's like, what do we always say about Donald Trump? Donald Trump just talks shit now. That's all he does. He just talks shit. It's always about the same thing, too. It's about the 2020 election. That's it. It's all he does is talk shit. Because he's an attention whore. He needs the attention. That's what Kyrie Irving is. That's why it was incredibly smart of Sean Marks to not give him a max deal. It was incredibly smart of Sean Marks to say, you know what? I only got to put up with you for one more year, so let's just do it and get it over with. And now Kyrie Irving has put himself in a position where no team is going to touch him. No team wants to deal with it. His career is going to end earlier than originally expected because there isn't a team out there that's going to want to deal with him. And it's just one thing after another with this guy. He can't help himself. And even after that, he's given an opportunity to apologize. He doesn't apologize. It's just I don't get it. And again, this is the team you said you wanted to play for. Your hometown team. Grew up a Nets fan. Love watching the Nets. Everything. Blah, 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 blah. And look where we're at. He has embarrassed the organization all the way through. The organization doesn't know what to do with him anymore. So the best thing you can do is suspend him. And they did the right thing.
Oh, yeah.
Since they suspended him, the Nets have been a better team. They fired Steve Nash. Look, I'm not saying Steve Nash was the main issue with the Brooklyn Nets. But Steve Nash is also not the type of coach that I'm going to sit there and like defend to the heavens and earth for. It was, let's call it what it was. Durant and Kyrie Irving got him fired. They got Steve Nash fired. Let's just call it what it is. The players weren't buying in. They didn't understand. I don't even know if they particularly liked the guy. But better to just cut bait now than have to deal with this shit later on in the season. And then the Nets go and they say, okay, we're on the verge of hiring Ime Udoka. Because, we needed, because what's more drama than a guy who got suspended for screwing around with another employee of the Celtics? And then the Nets finally woke up and they said, you know what? Bad idea to hire Ime Udoka. Well, let's hire Jacques Vaughn. And the players are buying in. The players are buying in. The Nets are playing better. They're buying into defense. Their defensive rating has improved dramatically since Jacques Vaughn took over.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant is playing loose. He's playing like he wants to be there. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're getting contributions out of everybody. Joe Harris is shooting again. Seth Curry's been really good. Even a guy like Yuta Watanabe's actually made contributions. Nick Claxton's been good in the middle. But these are things that take time. They need time. They lost last night to the Lakers. It's a bad loss. The Lakers aren't going to lose every game the rest of the season. So take it for what it is. But then the other night, they beat the Clippers by 15. They completely destroyed the Knicks last week. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Now, the way I see the Nets season going at this stage, I think that Marks is going to blow it up.
Yeah.
I am 1,000% convinced of that. I seriously think that he is hoping that Kevin Durant continues to play the way he's playing and doesn't get a significant injury. Because if that's the case, teams will come calling at the trade deadline for Kevin Durant. And he will get those picks back that he lost for Harden. He'll get a few young players to build around. And then he could start over again with this team.
Mm-hmm.
What you really want to see. If he wants to trade Joe Harris, he could probably get something for Joe Harris. If he wants to trade Seth Curry, he could probably trade something to get Seth Curry.
You're probably going to see something like what the Lakers and the Pelicans did when they traded AD for all those young Laker prospects.
You don't think Kevin Durant would want to go to the Pelicans with Zion? And, holy shit. If you don't want to go there, then you're an idiot. Like, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, at the end of the day, Kyrie Irving brought this upon himself. He has completely torpedoed his trade value. But here's the scary part. You know who still might wind up trading for him at the end of the day? The fucking Lakers. Because LeBron is running to his defense. LeBron wants Kyrie on the Lakers. He wants him. It's obvious to everybody. And with all due respect, when the hell did LeBron James become the spokesperson for the NBA? Kyrie did his time. He did his thing, and he should be playing. Fuck you. Like, all kidding aside, it's like, screw you, okay? Like, this is exactly what I mean. I don't need to hear LeBron James' opinion on everything anymore. I'm sick of listening to LeBron James, okay? It's like, the fact is look, he had an opportunity. He blew it. He decided to be him because he just can't be a team player. But now that he's not on the team right now, and I don't think he's going to play for the Nets ever again, the team is playing looser. They're playing like they're having fun again. They look like a different team. They don't look uptight. They don't look like they're getting their doors blown off every night. The only thing that would make this even better is they have to try to get something out of Ben Simmons. They just have to. Now look, the thing with Simmons is it's going to take some time. it's going to take a lot of time. The guy hasn't played in over a year. He's coming back from back surgery, which is always very tricky. So you can't expect the guy to pull double-doubles every night. You can't expect him to play 40 minutes a night. Not right now, at least. He needs time. You got to give him time. Again, but the impatience of fans and beat writers and social media heads and everything, they don't have the patience. They just want it fixed. They want it fixed like 10 minutes ago. It's like, what do I always say about when they elect a new president? The American public wants everything fixed like a half an hour.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to wait. They don't want to wait 6 months for this to go. They don't want to wait a year. They want it done 10 minutes ago because they just want to get back to normal life. It doesn't work that way. The Nets have their fair share of drama. But it's fixable. And as long as they keep winning games, no one's going to care about the drama.
Exactly.
If they keep winning games and Jacques Vaughn gets them into the playoffs, hopefully not the play-in tournament, but no one will care. And everyone will commend the job that Jacques Vaughn did. Maybe Kevin Durant will want to stay. They desperately need that, though. Because, let me rephrase that. They need that because they've invested too much of their future, and they can't afford to be a lottery team for the next 3 years.
Right.
Because they need the picks. But hopefully, and I think this has always been the deal they made with Durant in the first place, was like, look, come back to the Nets, get through this season. If you're still pissed and you don't want to be here anymore, I'll find a way to trade you. Even if I have to take less than what I want.
Right.
I think that's the deal they always made with Kevin Durant. I'm convinced of that. Now, on the other hand, we take a look at the Knicks. The Knicks are exactly who we thought they were, right? We knew they weren't going to be an elite team in the East, but we figured they'd be at least in the play-in tournament, maybe sneak in as a 6. So I'm not sure why people are so surprised by it, I guess. Last night they give up 145 points to the Thunder. Thunder had 17 3-pointers. Are you kidding me? But that was always the Knicks' issue. That was always going to be the Knicks' issue. The Knicks have no defense. Their starting players are not good defensively. And their best defensive player, Mitchell Robinson, is hurt.
Yeah. I don't know what the Knicks fans thought coming into the season. They were just going to be the regular old Knicks. I still think when a couple of years ago they were that 5 seed. I think that's what the Knicks fans are still hoping on for with this team.
But Jalen Brunson he's a great scorer, but everyone knew his issue was defense. He had defensive deficiencies. So did R.J. Barrett. So did Evan Fournier. They all have defensive issues. Thibodeau's scheme is predicated on defense. The Knicks don't play defense. So now Thibodeau is on the hot seat because the Knicks are getting the doors blown off again. And the Knicks have only really beaten they haven't beaten that many teams. They got their ass kicked by the Nets by 30 the other night. They gave up 145 points to the Thunder. They had to come from behind to beat the Pistons. It's not a good look. And the problem is the Knicks have bad contracts right now. Brunson's been really good. Good offensive guy, but he can't play defense. You gave R.J. Barrett $100 million. You have Julius Randle on a $100 million contract. You have Fournier on $72 million contract. Mitchell Robinson's making $60 million. I don't know how you can fix the team at this point. Unless you just can continue to build, keep these guys and continue to build through the draft. But we thought that was the plan this year, and that turned out to not be the case. But we'll always have fun with the latest superstar who's unhappy that is on the Knicks' radar story. Whether it's Devin Booker because the owners are racist. Whether it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even though he got a $200 million extension to stay in Oklahoma City. Who's next? Who's the next guy? Who's the next big stud that the Knicks are supposedly going to be interested in?
Yeah, supposedly.
I just don't get it. By the way, sleeper player for the Nets this year, Royce O'Neal.
Yes.
He's been fucking awesome. I love that guy.
He's been playing really good.
And the thing is, you know what's crazy? I'm actually looking forward to when the Nets get T.J. Warren back.
Mm-hmm.
When he comes back, I think they're going to be even better.
Like the Nets have if they can just get the starting five going, the Nets have a good bench. Like their bench is very good.
I'll say one thing too. I think Cam Thomas is going to be really good. I think Cam Thomas is going to be good. I really do. But the Knicks are exactly what we thought they were. And the truth is, again, if you fire Thibodeau, who's going to replace him? Who's the new coach that's going to be a big deal, that's going to replace him? Those are the types of things I just, right now you might as well just roll it with Tibbs. But you can't beat the good teams, which we knew the Knicks couldn't beat those good teams. So I don't really understand why everybody's so shocked and flipping out on social media and on the radio that the Knicks are a terrible team. So, all right, before we get out of here, Islanders won 4-2, beat the Senators. So weird time today, 5:30 game.
Yeah, I was odd. I got the update as I was eating dinner. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, I found out why. It turned out that they were retiring Daniel Alfredson's jersey tonight in Ottawa. So they wanted people to be in the crowd they did the ceremony after the game, which is a little weird, but okay. I mean, Canadians love hockey, so I don't think they would have had a problem with that.
Right.
I thought it was like a Canadian holiday or something. That's why they were starting at 5:30. But Islanders get the win 4-2. Jeff Saturday wins his debut against the Raiders in Vegas. Here's the funny thing about the Jeff Saturday hiring. I agree that I hate the way it went down. The fact is, Jim Irsay picked a good friend, former Colt, to coach the team. The guy's never coached above high school, and made him. This is like a weird Make-A-Wish Foundation type of thing. It just has this feel of like a Make-A-Wish kid. Who's getting to coach a game, right?
Right.
But it immediately pivoted to the Rooney Rule and the whole okay. And this is where I'm going to say this right now. I get that Black people, Spanish people, Asian people will always be pissed off that they're never given a fair shot at being a head coach in the NFL. Get it. Totally understand. Me personally, Klim, I'm sick and tired of hearing Stephen A. Smith complain about it. I am sick and tired of hearing anybody on ESPN complain about it. Okay? You're just not going to get the win once in a while, and you just have to accept it. Whether you want to accept it is another story. Because I'll be brutally honest, I couldn't think of a minority head coach right now, candidate, that's worth a job.
Right.
Outside of maybe Eric Bieniemy. But Eric Bieniemy there's something about Eric Bieniemy that teams just don't like. So he doesn't get the job. Now think about this year. Who are some of the minority coaches? Todd Bowles has been disappointing in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Lovie Smith has been a disaster in Houston. He's been god-awful. Tomlin gets by on his previous coaching record, but this has been the worst season he's had in Pittsburgh. I mean, who else is a minority coach right now in the NFL?
I can't even think of them, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, then. So, and Wilkes took over for Rule in Carolina.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Okay. Wilkes isn't doing too bad, but I don't think he's going to get the job. I think Carolina's going to go for a bigger name. I'd be very surprised if they give Steve Wilkes the job. The thing is, don't forget, I'm sorry, Ron Rivera. Also,
yes.
not really having a great season in Washington. Just been average. The truth is that they're not performing well, and there's nobody really on the radar where I'm sitting there going, I have to hire that guy. Okay? And the other part of it is, too, Klim, is that Stephen A. Smith doesn't pay ownership bills. He's just a fucking loudmouth on ESPN. That's what he is. He's a loudmouth. He doesn't get to tell me who I get to hire as my head coach. Okay? And as long as I satisfy the rules of the Rooney Rule, I can do whatever the hell I damn well please. Now, Irsay didn't in this case. He just named Jeff Saturday the head coach.
Right.
Whether that lasts into next year is another story. But I'm tired of listening to it. I agree that the hiring is weird. It was odd. It was a slap in the face to a lot of people, a lot of coaches who work hard, assistant coaches who work hard, who deserve their due. But it's the owner's decision.
Yeah.
And if he wants to hire Jeff Saturday, who am I to tell him not to hire Jeff Saturday?
Exactly.
He has to understand that if it's an embarrassment, he's got to live with that.
Yeah.
So for 1 week, Jeff Saturday made him look good. And that just goes to show you how awful of a head coach Josh McDaniels is. It's not even about whether you know what it is, Klim? He's incompetent. It's not even about whether he's a good coach or not. Jeff Saturday made him look incompetent.
Yeah.
That Josh McDaniels, who has head coaching experience with Denver, who was years and years as an assistant coach with Bill Belichick in New England, and he couldn't devise a game plan to beat Jeff Saturday, an inexperienced coach who has never coached above high school. Like, and I agree with some of the people that were saying it today. That is a fireable offense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that is embarrassing. And you know what the worst part about that loss was yesterday? It was at home.
Yeah.
It was at home with all of fucking Raider Nation who were hoping for a playoff, like a big run to the playoffs this year. Went out and got Devontae Adams. Went out and got Chandler Jones. We've got good players on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr is a serviceable quarterback. He's not my favorite, but he's a serviceable guy. And that's what you put out? You couldn't beat the fucking Colts with an inexperienced head coach, with a 30-year-old offensive coordinator? 30.
Yeah, that's if I like Derek Carr had every right to be upset in his post-game interview. Like,
but he's also questioning, he's not only questioning McDaniels, he's questioning the team. He doesn't think the team has heart. He doesn't think the team wants to win. He thinks they don't give a shit. And that's always seemed to be the Raiders of the past. The Jamarcus Russell Raiders, the Lane Kiffin Raiders. They just seem like they don't give a shit. They don't want it. And Carr is pissed. And if I was Carr, I'd be mad too.
Like on paper, you have a good team. So where's the mistrade? I mean, it's got to be in the coaching. You would think.
And the thing is that, yeah, it is coaching. McDaniels is a terrible coach. And I think he tried to do what every Belichick clone tries to do. He tried to make it his way. He tried to make it the Belichick way. That shit doesn't work on other teams. And it's just, I don't understand. Like, why is this team so incompetent on the field? Why is Josh McDaniels such a god-awful head coach? And again, you got out-coached by Jeff Saturday. And Jeff Saturday was smart. He said, look, I need to win. I need to put Matt Ryan back in the lineup. I need to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. And they finally gave the ball to Jonathan Taylor. He had 147 yards rushing. And a 66-yard run. Where the hell has that been all season? And the crazy part was, Klim, Jeff Saturday made Frank Reich look like a joke of a coach.
No, exactly. Like you've been mentioning, you have a guy who hasn't coached above high school go in, beat a team where it's not like he had a whole week to prepare as head coach. He came in 2 days prior to the game? Like,
the thing is, like, what does that tell you? That Jeff Saturday comes into a game, coaches the Colts, and they look more motivated than they did under Frank Reich this year.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if Jeff Saturday leads the Colts to, like, maybe not the playoffs, but a good record? I mean, that's absolutely. And the thing is I don't know how Josh McDaniels comes back from this. I don't know how the Raiders come back. Like, would you be up to play next week knowing full well that you were completely unprepared to play an inexperienced head coach and beat the shit out of the Colts? That's why Derek Carr was upset. He's like, I can't believe we lost these guys. Like, no disrespect to the Colts players. They're good players. But this guy has never coached above high school.
The Raiders should have easily taken care of the Colts. But they didn't. And that's why Derek Carr was so upset in his press game interview.
So some other news. Sorry, man, just lost it.
You good?
You know what it is? Like, you know when you get sick sometimes and you have like mucus in the back. I hate to be gross.
Yeah.
And you can't get it out, but it's causing you to like. It's like you want to cough, but you can't, like, because we're doing a show, kind of thing. So I'm like, it just sucks. That's why I hate being sick. Or I hate just being under the weather in general. Marlins made another interesting hire today as they hired a woman to be their new president of business operations. And they are the first ever professional franchise to have two women being the president and being the general manager of the team. So it's a great move for them just from a barrier standpoint, from, an equality standpoint. I love seeing stuff like this. So bravo to them. But here's my question. Do you think this will be the biggest hire they make this offseason? Because the Marlins never spend money on players. They don't really make a lot of noise. They always wind up trading guys. They'll probably trade Pablo Lopez this offseason for prospects. So I kind of asked myself, like, I think it's a wonderful hire. And I'm not saying she can't do the job. I'm sure she could do a wonderful job. My question becomes, is this the best move the Marlins will make this offseason? Because I can't figure out. No one wants to play there. They have no fans. So is this it? Is basically my point.
I said, to be perfectly honest, it's going to be either this, her being hired, or whoever they make the GM, the manager.
Yeah. So it's a very, very strange, like. So the woman's name is Carolyn O'Connor.
Mm-hmm.
She is the president of business operations, including sales, partnerships, marketing, human resources, and diversity, blah, 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 blah. Ballpark facilities and all that stuff. It said, with O'Connor and general manager Kim Ning at the helm, the Marlins are led by two of the highest-ranking women in professional sports, becoming what the organization believes to be the first team to have women operating the entirety of the team day-to-day business. Now, again, I love it. I love the hiring. I think it's different. It's outside the box, which is what you want to do sometimes. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with getting a fresh voice and just bringing back, recycling the same old former executives to come in and do nothing with the new roster they're with. When is this team going to start winning? That's my ultimate question. So while this is a great hire and a great story for the Miami Marlins, something tells me, like, it's all downhill from here, I guess, like, because I can't figure out how this team is going to be competitive in the NL East.
Especially when you, like you mentioned, they're already talking about trading players.
Yeah, they're always talking about trading players. That's what they do. They trade players all the time. It's just like, when does it get to the point where the Marlins turn the page and they start winning?
Yeah.
That's my only concern. That would be my primary concern with this team. So, all right, Klim, I think I'm good. Do you have anything else?
One thing, I don't know if you saw it. We haven't really talked UFC in a while. Granted, we haven't had our boy Ike on in a while. But I don't know if you saw, but Adesanya got upset over the weekend in UFC. He got TKO'd in the 5th.
Did you see him come out for the press conference afterwards? He was wearing the biggest mink coat I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, he's over it. It's like,
I was gonna say, like, I mean, they'll definitely run that title shot back easily. But when you look at a guy like Adesanya, he's been steadily probably the best fighter in UFC for the past couple of years right now. And
I love Adesanya.
Seeing him get upset, it was. I think we have to have Ike back on. Maybe that'll be the third guest that we were talking about for.
Did you ever see Jackass Forever?
Yes.
When the guy gets punched in the balls by Francis Ngannou. because he has the hardest punch known to man. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and he gets like hit, and he punches him really hard in the balls because they're doing the cup test, and like Francis Ngannou just like levels him, and the guy just goes down like a ton of bricks. Yeah, I mean, Adesanya is one of my favorite fighters. I mean, I wish I followed UFC more, but I mean, I just don't because like they have like what is it now? UFC number 375 or something like that, or
281.
281. Okay, so I'm only off by 100. But yeah, I mean that's really good. I mean the thing is, I think my girl retired if I remember correctly.
Who's your girl again?
Joanna.
Oh yeah, she's done. She's done.
Whatever. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I loved her. I thought she was awesome.
I will say I watched the card over the weekend, and it was a really good card. Like it was pretty good. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched the main event stuff, but it was very good. And I'm like, maybe this will get me back into because I used to watch UFC all the time. I was like, maybe this will get me back into it. Plus, I also miss Ike very much.
I'll get him on the phone. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for us. I'm trying to think if there was anything else, but I can't really remember off the top of my head if there was anything else I had to say. Actually, one last question. Saturday night, Full Gear, Newark, New Jersey. Does MJF bring home the title?
Absolutely. Absolutely wins the title.
But here's my question. Did AEW blow it?
No.
You kind of to the point where if he doesn't win it, it's going to be a huge disappointment.
If he doesn't win it, yeah, then they blew it. But there's no way they don't blow it. You're giving arguably right now in wrestling, top 3 wrestler the title. Absolutely, they have to do it. It's a no-brainer for them.
Okay. I mean, I really don't watch AEW that much anymore.
Neither do I.
I kind of just go by what the Pisano's do, or more Andrew Pisano does on the AEW show. So I don't really like the other guy. The other guy's kind of a tool, but it just sounds like this is where it's going, and then what happens after that is unless they do something with what's his name, Stokely Hathaway, to interfere in the match. But I don't know. I don't see MJF not walking out of Prudential Center. I don't see him walking out without the title.
I know he's got it. He's absolutely got it. If, like you said, if they don't give him the title, they absolutely botch this. This is a huge botch and terrible move if they don't give him the title.
All right. So on that note, that'll do it for the Moffett on the Mic show. Klim, we won't do a show next week unless you want to.
I can't do next week.
Okay, so we can't do next week, but we'll do the 28th. So the 28th of November, 2 weeks from tonight, we are scheduled to have Taylor Dahl back on the show. She was really supposed to be on today. Unfortunately, due to a family commitment, she wasn't able to make it. She had at the last minute. And so she'll be on to talk Jaguars football, Chicago Bears football. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and what the Chicago Cubs are going to do this offseason. And we'll be once again joined by the one and only Jake Asman from the Jake Asman Show. He catches YouTube videos. If you're a Jet fan, he does an awesome job. And then he's also on ESPN Radio in Houston. So we'll be talking everything pertaining to the Texans, the Astros, the Rockets, and we'll probably get into some New York sports as well, some Yankees, Mets, and Jets. So mega guest Monday is back in 2 weeks. Taylor Dahl, Jake Asman, and perhaps a third guest, mystery guest. We are going to try to see if we can put together. Klim and I will be in touch. We'll talk about that. So on behalf of Klim, this is Craig. This has been the Moffett on the Mic show. Thank you, everybody, for watching us on Facebook Live. You can follow the show on Instagram at Moff on the Mic. You can follow my show on Facebook as well. You can follow Klim and the A1 Sports Network on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can like and subscribe to the podcast courtesy of Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review because it makes us feel much better about ourselves. And I promise that the next show I will be fully healed from this cold that's making me really congested. So everybody, wherever you are, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving since we won't be on next Monday. Yes. Enjoy the parade. Enjoy the Lions. Enjoy the football games. Enjoy everything. Enjoy the time with the family and all that stuff. Stay safe wherever you are. The weather's getting shittier again, and you know what that means. the fear of COVID will make its mighty return. So just stay safe wherever you are. Do what you can to protect yourselves. And again, back Monday night, November 28th, right here on the A1 Sports Network. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great holiday. Klim, take care of yourself. Stay safe. By the way, good luck with the FDNY Academy. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
So Klim's been training his balls off really hard. Training with that mustache is just impressive. But yeah, you can't do it. That's that To Catch a Predator crap you're doing now, which is just not. That's not cool. So, but good luck with everything. And again, 2 weeks from tonight, right here on the A1 Sports Network. Have a great holiday, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Have a great night.